Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Matthew chapters 14 through 17. And it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, so at this point, we're going to see the death of John the Baptist. We are going to see Jesus' feeding of the 5,000. Very famous story. I'm sure you've heard it, where he fed 5,000. And also, he's going to be walking on water here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we get all the famous stories.
We get some of them. We get a good amount of them.
Yeah, well, I have the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
I have the Jewish Annotated New Testament.
I have, let's see, from Ulrich Luz from the Hermenia series. This volume is on Matthew chapters 8 through 20.
I have the NIV Study Bible.
We also have Erdman's commentary on the Bible. And then we have these two Greek ones over here, these two Greek versions. We have a textual guide to the Greek New Testament, which is basically just like, here are some textual emendations, and here are some reasons why we think those are the proper emendations. And then we just have a Greek New Testament.
We also have the text of the New Testament by Bruce Metzger and the Historical Jesus in Context.
Yes, by Amy Jill Levine and some other people as well here, Dale Allison and John Dominic Crossan.
And we also have the New King James Version.
We do. But we don't care about that.
A lot of books.
It is. It is.
You know what? We also have the Oxford Companion to the Bible, something which has helped us once.
Yeah, it's been useful that one time in 227 episodes.
Yep.
Although, you know what? Let's be fair here. We didn't have it at the very beginning. So in like 200 episodes, it hasn't been useful.
Okay. So what we can say is that it has a 0.5% usefulness.
Yeah. Give or take.
Yep. Anyways, anything that you want to do to introduce this chapter 14, right away?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Death of John the Baptist. All right, this is from the Hermenia commentary here. So Mark 6:14 through 29 is the only source, a conclusion that is confirmed by the observation that most of the Matthean peculiarities are redaction. Matthew has greatly abbreviated the Markan text, especially Mark 6:15 through 16, 19 through 21, 22b, 24 through 25, and 27. In Mark, the sending and return of the 12 disciples, 6, 7 through 13 and 30, provides the framing action. The flashback in 6:14 through 29 covers the time of their absence with literary skill. With Matthew, who had reported the sending already in chapter 10, the framework is omitted. That means that a new transition to verse 13 is needed. Matthew creates it by taking over apegeleon from Mark 6:30 and forming from it the notice, reversing the process of 11:4, that the disciples of John reported to Jesus. This report is then is the occasion for Jesus' withdrawal to the other shore in verse 13.
All right. So without further ado, I guess I'll just hop right into it, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, chapter 14. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus. Now, this Herod is different. Different Herod. So, Herod or Herod the Great, Herod the Tetrarch, ruled Galilee from 4 BC through 39 CE. So different dude than we saw at the beginning.
So Jesus' ruling prince, Herod Antipas, hears about his miracles.
Yes, and the Tetrarch, Herod Antipas, the ruler, the fourth part of a region, that's a Tetrarch. Herod the Tetrarch, Herod Antipas, was one of the several sons of Herod the Great. When Herod the Great died, his kingdom was divided among 3 of his sons. Herod Antipas ruled over Galilee and Perea from 4 BC to 39 AD. Matthew correctly refers to him as a tetrarch here, as Luke regularly does. But in verse 9, Matthew calls him king, as Mark also does, because that was his popular title among the Galileans as well as in Rome. So, just so we're clear, this is a different Herod.
Yeah. Not the same guy from the birth story.
Yeah. And said unto his servants, This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. So John the Baptist rose from the dead.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
It's an ironic comment,
Yeah.
given that Matthew depicts Jesus, not John, as eventually raised.
Makes sense there.
Yeah. I don't know if any of those have any commentary on it, or if it's just supposed to be ironic, LOL. For Herod had laid hold on John and bound him and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife.
Yeah, so because of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip.
Yeah. Niece of Herod the Great, sister of Agrippa the First,
Okay.
and wife not of Antipas's brother Philip, but of another half-brother, Herod Boethus.
You gotta love these. I mean, we're not covering a genealogy today, but you gotta always give a shout out to those genealogies.
Though the NIV says that she was a granddaughter of Herod the Great.
Oh, okay.
First, she married her uncle, Herod Philip.
Great.
Yeah. Herod the Great also had another son named Philip, who lived in Rome. While a guest in their home, Herod Antipas persuaded Herodias to leave her husband for him. Marriage to one's brother's wife while the brother was still living was forbidden by the Mosaic law.
Yep, that's Leviticus 18:16 and 20:21.
Yep. Now for Philip, this is the son of Herod the Great and Mariamne, the daughter of Simon, the high priest, and thus a half-brother of Herod Antipas, born to Malchus. So there you go, some genealogy. So we know what this wacky family is all about. Anyways, for John said unto him, It is not lawful for thee to have her, as we've established. And when he would have him put to death, he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod, whereupon he promised an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. And she, being before instructed of her mother, said, Give me here John Baptist's head in a charger.
Wow. Okay.
Or
on a platter. I like that.
on a platter.
I like that translation, on a platter. That's classic. Although I do want to point out here quickly. So in verse 5 there, and he intended to kill him, but he was afraid of the people because they regard him as a prophet. So that calls back to the Old Testament tradition of like the suffering prophets, like Zechariah.
Yeah, and a lot of what these prophets do. People get the wrong idea of a prophet, right? They think that a prophet in popular nomenclature is someone who's like predicting the future.
Yeah.
But really, biblically, a prophet is just someone who is acting as a mouthpiece for Yahweh and usually is just criticizing the Jews.
Essentially, like something that they're doing. Like, you're falling away from our traditions and you're falling away from the word of the Lord and you got to get back on the right track. Yeah, so that's what prophets generally do here.
Yeah. Moving on then. And the king was sorry, nevertheless for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it be given her. And he sent and beheaded John in the prison. And his head was brought in a charger, or a platter, and given to the damsel. And she brought it to her mother. And his disciples came and took up the body and buried it and went and told Jesus.
Oh man, I don't think I don't think Jesus is going to be too happy about this, right?
Right.
He respects John. He likes John.
Yeah. Really strange. I'm not sure why exactly this girl's mother wanted John the Baptist beheaded.
Yeah, so the story has its meaning in the macro text of the gospel. The rejection of Jesus in Nazareth is followed by another signal for the future, the death of the forerunner of the returned Elijah, who precedes Jesus on his own way of suffering. The Son of Man will suffer the same fate as he, 17:12. The readers of the Gospel of Matthew know the Deuteronomistic tradition of the disobedience of an Israel that has always persecuted and murdered its prophets. The allusion to them is Matthew's most important interpretive element, which we just discussed. What happened is an expression of the disobedience that characterized Israel even in biblical times. Although what Herod Antipas has done is especially horrible, it is not an isolated incident. The story of Jesus' passion will confirm it. Thus, the allusion to the tradition of the murder of the prophets makes the death of John, so to speak, a type and includes it in the Matthean view of salvation history. That Antipas, who certainly was not a very Jewish son of Herod, here plays the role, as it were, of the negative forerunner of the Jewish leaders and of the entire people in the passion of Jesus, is not at all fair toward Israel and follows the line of the historical construction in 2:3-4, where the evangelist already had the elder Herod act in harmony with all Jerusalem.
So I guess the reason that Herodias wants John dead is just because he called out her marriage as unlawful?
I suppose, yeah.
Well, I guess if you were a prophet in Israel who was well respected by many people and you called out a specific person's marriage as unlawful, that could make a lot of social problems for you.
It would, yeah.
Right. All right.
So this is something interesting here. So in modern times, the unnamed daughter of Herodias has become the colorful figure of Salome, who is...
Salome.
Salome, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's... Okay. It looks like... kind of like Salem, but yeah. All right. Who is familiar to us from literature and art. She is, however, not a modern invention, but the result of long development that even begins occasionally in the church fathers.
When Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. And when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. And Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude, and was moved with compassion toward them, and he healed their sick. And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals. But Jesus said unto them, They need not depart. Give ye them to eat. And they say unto him, We have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He said, Bring them hither to me. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat and were filled. And they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full.
So if you remember, I forget which which text it was.
And they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children.
Okay. So the callback here is to the Old Testament, and I forget which prophet it was, but one of them, fed a lot with very few resources.
There was also that.
Was it the oil thing?
It was bread and oil, where they could sell what they had.
Oh, right.
It would never run out.
Yeah, there was that one lady who, with her kid, they were really poor.
Yeah.
And they just got an infinite supply of bread and oil.
Effectively, yeah. Yeah, the feeding Oh, hold on. Okay, so not important for him were the salvation history dimensions and the reminiscences of the feeding of Elisha and of the manna that he played down in his narrative.
So first of all, this is the only miracle reported in all 4 canonical Gospels.
Oh.
Yeah. The only one. For blessing and breaking the loaves. First of all, this recollects the feeding of the children of Israel in the wilderness in
Sure.
Exodus with the manna.
Yeah.
But also because it's an act of breaking the bread and blessing the bread, it anticipates the Last Supper, as that's an activity that you would partake in during the Passover Seder.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit of foreshadowing along with a little bit
Okay, so I remember. Okay, so the Last Supper is supposed to be a Passover Seder, right? And it was really funny to me in the because I think not last semester, semester before last semester, I was taking the class on Judaism, right?
Yeah.
And the teacher was like, "This can't possibly be a Passover Seder. Where's the Passover lamb?" And I'm like, "The point is that Jesus is the Passover lamb."
You didn't know that?
I guess she just didn't. So, I mean, because she's. I don't know how much. I don't think she's actually done that much work on Christianity. She's done work on Judaism because she's Jewish and she teaches about Judaism. But yeah, that's a really. It's always interesting.
Yeah.
How it's interpreted in someone else's eyes that isn't looking at it the same way that a believer would be.
That's true.
Yeah.
But some more things about this specific thing. The story is one of the few to appear in all 4 Gospels. The only miracle.
Oh, okay, I see.
Probably because of its symbolism and association with the early Christian celebration of the Lord's Supper. The wilderness setting and the miraculous availability of food associates Jesus with Moses from Exodus with the manna. Multiplying a small amount of food to feed a crowd also recalls Elisha's feeding of 100 men with 20 loaves and fresh ears of grain, 2 Kings 4:42 through 44.
Right, okay, yeah, that was what we were thinking of.
And Elijah's feeding of himself, his widowed host, and her son with a handful of meal and a little oil until a famine ended in 1 Kings 17:12 through 16.
There you go.
Only 1 grain of rice a day, guys.
No.
It's too much otherwise. You're not fasting hard enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that rice is really filling, isn't it? The 1 grain.
I'll boil it so it has a little water in it.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You need that.
I mean,
Yeah,
1 grain of rice can fit an entire page of the Bible on it.
Yeah, if you write small enough, yes.
Yeah.
That's the shortest page.
There was that one guy who wrote pages of the Bible on single grains of rice.
Wow, that sounds like way too much effort for really how much gain?
What a use of one's time.
Very little gain.
Yeah, very little gain. Impressive, but very little gain.
But, I mean, you have, like, people eating scrolls.
Oh, yeah, that's
so you can make it really easy.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So
that's actually a really good point. He could sell it to like some fringe groups that think that they should, like, they read, what was it, Zechariah, and think that they should literally be eating scrolls.
yeah.
Like he could sell that to like fringe groups.
Yeah. Or you could, like, they have edible paper.
Yeah, that too.
You could have a whole Bible, edible paper.
Oh, gosh.
Like that's
The edible Bible.
So that could be. Is that blasphemy? I don't know.
Is it?
I don't know.
Eat the
food
scrolls.
when you ran out of food, I guess.
Yeah. Also, they noted that besides the women and children, Matthew alone notes this. He was writing to the Jews who did not permit women and children to eat with men in public.
Yeah.
So they were in a place by themselves. And straight away, Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitude away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone.
He was just in a boat, and he decided to go to the mountain?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then.
Yeah, he's like, well, these multitudes keep following me, but they're not going to follow me up a mountain. Very Moses-esque. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. You know, this is something that angels do a lot. They specifically say to not be afraid when they make their appearance.
That is true. So more on that, actually.
Question, though, is him walking on water not a miracle?
Yeah, it is.
Well, then there's more than one miracle.
No. They're saying
That-
that it's the only one that's in all of the Gospels.
Yeah.
Because,
Shared.
yeah.
Different books.
So...
Gotcha, bud.
So yeah, now the divine being begins to speak. Ego eimi, which means I am, has no predicate. Jesus does not say that he is this or that, but simply it is I. On the surface, that is a simple reference to the speaker himself. But of course, if you go back biblically, you have God's revelation to Moses, right, through the burning bush, or I am that I am, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good callback to that. You know who does that a lot is John. In John's gospel, you see that a lot.
Also, this fourth watch of the night is 3 to 6 a.m. According to Roman reckoning, the night was divided into 4 watches. 1, 6 to 9 p.m. 2, 9 p.m. to midnight. 3, midnight to 3 a.m. And 4, 3 to 6 a.m. The Jews had only 3 watches during the night. 1, sunset to 10 p.m. 2, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And 3, 2 a.m. to sunrise.
All right.
So different timing systems. It shows that the author was not using the Jewish timing system, but the Roman one.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting bits there. Let me see. I think there was one more thing.
Oh, and apparently, okay. So yeah. So fourth watch of the night, that is the time of the morning light from 3 to 6 a.m., is at the same time the biblical time of God's helpful intervention, and for Christians, the time of the resurrection of Jesus. At this time, Jesus comes to the disciples across the lake. The context of the story makes it completely clear that he walked not along the shore, but on the water toward the disciples. Yeah.
So this might also call back to, what was it? Jonah, right? Because he has control over the seas. He literally comes to a ship full of people and offers some form of salvation.
Sure.
Right?
Although with Jonah, it was different because Jonah didn't walk on water or anything.
Oh no, not like that. But the point of that story, that part of that story, was to show that Yahweh had control over the waters.
Yeah, the things in the seas too. Yeah.
So presumably here, and his control over the water is demonstrated a little more in the upcoming verses, so I'll read that. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt?
So Yeah, that doubt as a part of faith is important to him, as the repetition of the word in his last text in 28:17 shows. Okay, so that's one. We'll get there. Yeah, the whole point is, like, he was walking on water.
Mm-hmm.
Peter was walking on water, but then he got afraid, and that's why he started to sink. That's why he started to drown. And Jesus is like, hey, you gotta have that faith. With faith, you too can walk on water.
Yeah.
But I mean, presumably, maybe you'd have to have Jesus right there.
Don't try it.
Don't.
Guys.
Please don't go try walking on water.
Unless you're ice skating.
And of course. If it's frozen, you might be okay.
You might also not be okay.
That is also true. It could break. It depends on the time. Just be safe, all right? Just don't don't go jumping into the ocean like in the middle of it somehow
Like
without
that,
any kind of
like that
gear.
part in Cobra Kai where Johnny's training and he just starts fighting the ocean.
Yeah, that's right. He does start fighting the ocean. But also, also that part in Cobra Kai where Johnny pushes Miguel into the pool without asking him if he knows how to swim.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't
guys.
do that, no.
Anyways. And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. So here Jesus has power over storms. Very Yahweh-y. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. So it's pointed out here that, and the Son of God, this indicates Jesus' divine nature. The phrase may have been a messianic reference, according to 4th Ezra and 4Q 246.
Okay.
No Jewish texts identify the Messiah as the Son of God, though.
Okay.
No canonical ones. But also, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Hebrew is for Messiah, Mashiach, right? It just means
so, yeah.
anointed one.
Yeah.
And there's several people who are identified as anointed in the Hebrew Bible. But unless I'm getting wrong information, the term ha-Mashiach, ha being the prefix which means the, does not appear in the Hebrew Bible.
I don't actually know about that.
Yeah. I saw someone talking about it last night on some video. I haven't read the entire Hebrew Bible in Hebrew.
Right.
But this was some rabbi. So I assume that they have.
Yeah, some insight into the Hebrew, sure.
Yeah. So I wonder what implications that would actually have for like the Jewish Messiah, right?
Yeah. Because like we've had, plenty of anointed ones. We have also had the Son of God being referenced, like David, for example, right? He was the anointed one, and he was referred to as the Son of God.
Right. And all those who were in the Davidic lineage then would be sons of God, right?
Right.
Yep.
And there's lots of them, including Joseph.
Yeah, including Joseph.
Joseph is the son of God, guys. Okay, just a little bit more in this chapter. And when they were all gone over, they came into the land of Gennesaret. Now, Gennesaret is on the northwestern shore of the Sea of Galilee, according to Josephus.
Okay.
Yeah. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all that country round about and brought unto him all that were diseased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, and as many as touched were made perfectly whole.
Wow. So yeah, they were. So it says the translation perfectly whole. So I'm going to check here in the Greek quick. But this translation says, and all who touched were saved. So the story continues without a break after the high point of the Son of God confession. As is always the case in Matthew's text, there are no breaks between the individual sections into which today's commentary is divided. Jesus and his disciples land in Gennesaret. So the name is not documented with certainty as location, Presumably the fertile plain at the western shore of the lake north of Magdala is meant. As happened already in 424, Jesus has a wide-ranging effect. The local men permit all the sick in the area to come. They, too, expect much of him. They touch his garment. What the hemorrhaging woman did earlier in chapter 9 is repeated. All the clouds seem to have disappeared. It is as if all conflicts have been blown away. Matthew shows the pious Jew, Jesus, in the midst of a friendly crowd. Jesus turns to his people and heals all their sick. The many healing summaries in Matthew show how important Jesus' healing concern for his people is precisely for the evangelist, who elsewhere emphasizes Jesus' commands so much. Like when he gave his disciples the ability to do these things. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to check the Hebrew really quick before we hop into the
Hebrew?
Sorry, not the Hebrew, the Greek. My bad. We were just talking about Hebrew earlier.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hop into the Greek real quick just to see exactly what it says. So what is that? That is verse 36 there. So I'm going to check verse 36 once I get there.
Right.
Yeah, and then we can get started with the next chapter, right?
Yeah, and the next chapter, chapter 15, is going to be another legal dispute between the Pharisees and Jesus.
Oh, great. Great. You'll love those.
So this is actually going to involve some dietary laws. It says here in Eerdmans, Matthew argues that the Pharisees' traditions and interpretations of biblical law and their practical program for observance of law has not been commanded by the Bible. Matthew develops his own tradition for interpreting the Bible in his gospel. The author of Matthew also accuses the scribes and Pharisees of subverting biblical commandments with their practices. All these polemical charges are typical in sectarian disputes over law and practice in first century Judaism. The laws governing purifying one's body for ritual actions or for eating food dedicated to God in the temple are extremely complex and especially pertain to priests and their families, e.g. Leviticus 11 through 15. However, the Pharisees had interpreted these laws so that they might be observed by non-priestly Israelites. Their motive was to encourage Second Temple Jews in the land of Israel to live a holy life closely linked to God and God's law. In this case, the first point at issue is ritually purifying one's hands by washing before meals so that the food eaten will not be rendered impure. The Bible mentions hand washing, but not as a general obligation to be undertaken before meals. Customs and interpretations varied. For example, the Essenes immersed themselves before eating. The extension of hand washing to other contexts can be found later in the Mishnah and Talmud, but even there it's disputed because it's only loosely founded on biblical law. The dispute in this chapter in Matthew and in Mark 7:1 through 23 probably reflects conflicts over the observance of purity and dietary laws among the early Jewish followers of Jesus and between them and the larger Jewish community.
For this, I'll just get started with this chapter.
Yeah, hop into it.
Will do. Oh, also the word that's used there is healed in the last section. So not saved or made whole. It says healed.
Mm.
All right. So continuing on here, then Pharisees and scribes came to Jesus from Jerusalem and said, "Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat."
So, as we noted, this is a rule that concerns priests. The rabbinic legislation extends several temple purity practices to the household, but it's not biblically based. For the traditions of the elders, after the Babylonian captivity, the Jewish rabbis began to make meticulous rules and regulations governing the daily life of the people. These were interpretations and applications of the law of Moses, handed down from generation to generation. In Jesus' day, this tradition of the elders was in oral form. It was not until around 200 AD that it was put into writing in the Mishnah.
All right, so let's see what Jesus says to them in response. So he answered them, "And why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition? For God commanded, 'Honor your father and mother,' and whoever reviles his father or mother must surely die. But you say, if anyone tells his father or his mother, what you would have gained from me is given to God, he need not honor his father. So for the sake of your tradition, you have made void the word of God, you hypocrites. Well did Isaiah prophesy of you when he said, 'This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men.'"
So this is from Isaiah 29:13, following the word order of the Septuagint.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, so he's, essentially calling them hypocrites. He's calling them out on their bullshit. Because they're not doing things that were ordained by God. They're doing things as ordained by men.
He also gives precedence to the Ten Commandments over other biblical laws.
Yeah, that is true, or at least that one so far. Although we've seen quite a lot of things where Jesus is like, he's talking about the law, and they're not. I mean, whenever he says that these laws are more important than your rabbinical traditions, they're not always. He's not always talking about the Ten Commandments, at least.
Right, not always. There is a bit here in Eerdmans where the author of Matthew argues polemically that there's a number of points at which it says the author of Matthew.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
The author of Matthew argues polemically that the Pharisees misinterpreted the law through lack of inner integrity by stressing vows, purity, and hand washing over the Ten Commandments.
Gotcha.
Given the Pharisaic devotion to the law, this global charge is unlikely. Rather, for the Pharisees, for Matthew, and for the tradition, imprudent or excessive vows were a constant problem. A century after Matthew, the Mishnah still argued whether a person could be released from a vow for the honor of his parents. The rabbis recognized a serious weakness in their code. Rules for release from vows hover in the air and do not have anywhere upon which to land. This is from the Talmud. It's likely that later in the 1st century, before the Mishnaic laws were developed, the problem of release from vows was very acute. The author of Matthew attacks the whole system by subordinating it strongly to the Ten Commandments, in this case, honoring one's parents, and by attacking his opponents as hypocrites, condemned by Isaiah 29:13. He also changes the Greek version of Isaiah 29:13 so that it more explicitly rejects the Pharisaic tradition of the fathers or tradition of the elders and condemns them for teaching as teachings the precepts of men. So he actually misquotes the verse in order to make his point.
I mean, yeah, that's how a lot of these things happen in literature.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to continue on here. So after this quotation, and he called the people to him and said to them, "Hear and understand. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth. This defiles a person." So the saying of Jesus that now follows is a crux interpretum in the Matthean context. In Mark 7:15, clearly intended a basic abolition of the distinction between clean and unclean. Mark 7:19 especially makes that unambiguous. Paul probably understood this saying of Jesus in the same way. Its original meaning for Jesus is less clear, since elsewhere since Jesus elsewhere seems to say that internal purity takes precedence over external purity, and since historically the law of purity presumably was relinquished in early Christianity only with the transition to the Gentile mission, it is more probable that Jesus did not basically abandon the purity commandment, but only subordinated it on a case-by-case basis to the more weighty commandments, especially the love commandment. And we do get later where it goes to, when someone's going to ask him, what is like the most important commandment, and Jesus will go into that. That'll be later on, though. In that case, coming from him, Mark 7:15 is the sharpened rhetorical formulation that Jewish Christianity understood differently than did Paul or Mark. With Matthew, the difficulty is that while he has reworked the Markan text, he did not do so enough that an interpretation different from Mark's would convincingly result. He makes the Markan eis auton ek tu anthropu, so into it, from, and then from the person. More precise, by adding the word stomach, and thereby makes clear that the issue for him is primarily sins of the tongue and food.
And philosophy nerd, we do not strawman Aquinas in the video against Aquinas. We take a summary of his arguments as from an academic source and argue point by point against that summary. I'm not going to read the entire Summa Theologica in order to make a YouTube video. That is way too much work. Do you have any idea how long that is?
Well, it is incredibly long, but that is something that a lot of people have said about that video.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, but I think they're just salty because it's not quoted directly from Aquinas and instead taken from a secondary source, which isn't a problem because we refer to things that are in secondary sources in philosophy all the time.
That is true. That does happen. But that is...
I heard you say that once.
Heard me say that?
No. Reuben.
Oh.
It's secondhand.
There's a difference.
Or you say it's secondhand. Okay,
secondhand and a secondary source.
There is, yeah.
Right?
I know. I'm messing around, guys. It's a joke. Jeez. I say jokes. Come on.
Well, it didn't really come across all that well, did it?
If I'm saying something, it's probably a joke.
Anyways, let's continue.
Yeah. Right. So he just quoted. He just gave this thing where you have to be internally good, like don't say shitty things, I guess.
But also, there's probably some takes that are in the Aquinas video that I wouldn't stand by right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's fair, I think. Then the disciples came and said to him, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying?" He answered, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be rooted up. Let them alone." Yeah, let them alone.
Let them alone.
They are blind guides. And if the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit. But Peter said to him, "Explain the parable to us." Okay, this one seems like pretty on the nose, Peter.
Yeah.
Peter, you're not really with it, are you, buddy?
Peter, come on, man.
Peter needs things explained to him very, very like black and white.
This one is pretty obvious here.
Abstract reasoning is not Peter's strong suit.
It really
Peter
isn't.
from Family Guy.
And he said, "Are you also still without understanding?"
Actually, we're getting a lot of picking on Peter in this
that's
episode. First, he tries to walk on the water and then doubts and starts falling. Then he's like, "I don't understand."
He's like,
apparently, Matthew's author was not a big fan of Peter.
No, but apparently not.
Peter is incompetent.
Are you still without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is expelled? That is that's a decent summary of digestion.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, essentially.
You did
Uh,
the Bible. You said something that could happen. Wow.
But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, wait, hold on. He's got an argument here for you. Don't you want to hear it?
The heart. I mean, other than being part of the cardiovascular
No.
system.
It comes from the heart. Don't you want to hear the argument?
Okay.
It's a metaphor.
All right.
What's a metaphor?
For
A simile.
listen, we may as well call you Peter. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile anyone.
It
Listen.
does.
Yep.
It actually can be
Does.
dangerous.
It can be, yeah.
Like, is this why the Black Plague happened?
This is why the Middle
No.
Ages sucked.
Is this the Dark Ages in a nutshell? Like, ooh,
That's
we don't believe in communicable
No,
disease.
the Dark Ages.
Like, this is what Jesus says not to wash your hands, guys. Is this why we have COVID right now?
No. Salmonella +1, very good. So with this, like, I don't think he's saying don't wash your hands, but he's saying that it's not necessary. That's not a thing that is a sin, right? So in this section, while I agree that murder and theft and false witness, slander, those things are bad things, certainly. But of course, as we now know, they don't come from the heart. But the word heart, of course, just carries with it in Greek thoughts. Like, that's where they thought that thoughts came from. So they said it. I mean, the Egyptians thought the same thing. They also believed that thoughts came from the heart.
Yes.
So,
however, here Matthew does omit Mark's claim that Jesus declared all foods clean. For Matthew, the dietary laws remain in place,
that is interesting.
but some traditions of the elders are not followed.
This really changes the Arthur intro for me. The
Yeah.
show Arthur.
Yeah.
Listen to your heart. Listen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, it's just now you kill a bunch of people.
You know-
Oh, jeez, I don't know. That's not what my heart's
Is that-
screaming.
Is
but
that what your heart is screaming?
my head doesn't have any of those thoughts. no.
Ruben, I think we got to talk
Beyond
about
a joke.
I mean, it's been a long time getting from there to here. So there's a little thing about Peter in here.
Is it about his incompetence?
Maybe.
right.
Only in Matthew's gospel does Jesus tell the disciple named Simon, son of Jonah, you are Peter. Though there's some other things here. You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Only in Matthew does Jesus give Peter the keys of the kingdom. Peter is the leader of the disciples, is present at the transfiguration, and despite his fear, follows Jesus after his arrest. He is also the only disciple to attempt to walk on water with Jesus. Roman Catholic tradition identifies Peter as the initial bishop of Rome, thereby making him the first pope, although the title was not officially used until almost 200 years later.
Boy, the first pope is dumb.
Yeah. Most Protestants...
Yeah, the thing is, it wasn't like, declared a pope, but he was like, this is the rock that, because Peter means rock, so like, this is the rock on which I will build my church and whatnot.
Yeah.
So they kind of, what's that called?
A double entendre.
No, well, I mean, when you retroactively, it's a retcon.
Okay.
It's a retcon.
So most Protestants note that the textual link between Peter and the apostle and the rock of the church is not definitive. It could be that the rock refers only to Peter's proclamation, you are the Messiah, in 1613, not to Peter himself.
All right, continuing on here. So this is the faith of a Canaanite woman. A Canaanite.
Ooh.
Haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, it's been quite a while now. This term found many times in the Old Testament, but only here in the New Testament. In New Testament times, there was no country known as Canaan. Some think that this was the Semitic matter of referring to the people of Phoenicia at this time, Mark says the woman was a Greek born in Syrian Phoenicia.
Yeah, essentially the Phoenicians is what I guess they would call them, Canaanites or Canaanios.
But if I'm reading this correctly, this is a woman from Tyre.
All right, so and Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold!
Oh!
A Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." And now this isn't the first time. He's done some exorcisms in Matthew already.
Yeah.
This is another person that is oppressed by a demon.
He's also helped Gentiles before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out this Canaanite woman seeks out help for her possessed daughter.
Is this any similar to the Shunammite woman narrative? Maybe a little bit?
Yeah.
Because like she has that kid who was was that the one with the dead kid that Elijah, I think it was Elijah, right? That he raised from the dead?
Yeah, that happened.
Was that the Shunammite woman?
Yeah. The woman is identified by the first century ethnic designation Syro-Phoenician in Mark 7:26. But the author of Matthew calls her a Canaanite, the ancient biblical name for the non-Jewish residents of the area and the group from whom Israel was supposed to remain separate. Matthew thus shows Jesus helping the needy woman without breaking the purity and dietary rules, and explains his reluctance as obedience to the biblical commandments to stay apart from the Canaanites. So this is going to play into this story here, this reluctance to
engage with other peoples.
Yeah.
All right.
I empathize with that.
Wow.
Wow.
Not in this context, you don't.
Probably
Chris
not.
just hates people of certain ethnicities, I guess.
Not that. Just
this is-
people.
You really should have
peoples.
really should have thought about the context.
I now
here, though.
realize that. Yeah, my bad.
Really should have considered it.
Probably don't be racist. Thanks.
But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she is crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." Wow.
Yeah, so the lost sheep of Israel and the dogs. The Greek says little dogs, meaning a pet dog in the home. And Jesus' point is that the gospel was to be given first to the Jews. The woman understood Jesus' implication and is willing to settle for crumbs. And he does end up rewarding her faith. However, this is quite bad.
Yeah. So, gonna continue on this story here. Oh, boy. All right. She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall under the master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Oh, woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly.
So just remember, all you Christians out there, that Jesus refers to non-Jews as dogs.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yep.
Wow. That is pretty rough there.
It's pretty bad.
That is
isn't it?
pretty bad, yeah. Because, like, a good amount of the stuff that Jesus has said and done hasn't been all that bad. Really?
I mean, compared to how bad it's been in the Old Testament,
Well, yeah,
with
yeah.
some of those perspectives.
Yeah, compared to the Old Testament, obviously.
Mhm.
But even in this context, oof, yeah, that's
it's still risky.
That's a big ouch.
Yikes.
That is a big yikes. There you go. So continue on here. Next section. Oh, we have some more healings. All right. I mean, it's good that he healed the kid, right? I guess. But it's only because her faith was so great. So different standards there. Jesus went on from there and walked beside the Sea of Galilee, and he went up on the mountain and sat down there. And great crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others. And they put them at his feet, and he healed them. So that the crowd wondered when they saw the mute speaking, the crippled healthy, the lame walking, and the blind seeing. And they glorified the God of Israel. So here's something about this section. Remember that time Jesus was like, hey, don't tell anyone?
Yeah.
And now so many people are gathering specifically to go get healed
Just by him.
from Jesus. Word has gotten around. So, I don't think there was really any way of stopping this from happening.
Right.
This was inevitable.
The point is that you can't trust anyone to keep a secret.
Yes, especially if you get healed.
Especially if you do something that they could not possibly keep secret.
like heal you of
Or
some
feed
terminal
5,000
disease.
people with some bread and some fish.
That too.
Yep.
I don't think there's really much more to say on this section then.
Yeah.
It's pretty self-explanatory. He healed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Also, hello, Landon.
Hi, Landon.
Also, I don't even think you said hi to Matthew or Justin.
Oh, hi, Matthew. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Nightbot.
Yeah, hello, Nightbot.
Yeah, I
Hello,
just
everyone in
argued
chat.
with a philosophy nerd.
That's true. That's really all that you did. Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion on the crowd because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. Wow.
Yeah.
That's why. And I am unwilling to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way. Well, that's good. What were they doing there for 3 days? Is that how long it took them to heal everyone?
I guess. There were a lot of people, man.
All right. So we actually have some textual stuff on this. So I'm going to flip to the textual commentary in this too. This is chapter 16. Seems to be some... Oh, yeah, there is quite a bit here.
There's chapter 15 that you're reading.
I'm still on 15? What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I'm looking at ahead there. My bad.
Specifically...
I'm getting ahead of myself, guys. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, you just finished 1532.
Yeah. So I'm finishing up 15 then. Yeah, so there wasn't much more to say about the healing section anyways.
Okay.
So yeah, he has compassion. Yeah, why are they not having food for 3 days?
I guess they didn't bring anything with them.
Maybe that was a good idea.
Would have been.
So do you think they expected a crowd? Probably, right? Considering, this is a pretty famous... at this point, this is a famous healer.
Look, we're going to get another feeding miracle, right? And
Yeah, this
the
time it's
feeding
the
of the
4,000.
5,000, the one that happened before, is recorded in all 4 Gospels. But this one is only in Matthew and Mark.
And the disciples said to him, where are we to get enough bread in such a desolate place to feed so great a crowd?
I mean, you guys should know by now.
Yeah, you guys should know, right?
Did they just forget?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? They must have.
Must have been Peter. Nice one who was talking there.
And directing the crowd to sit... desolate place to feed so great a crowd. And Jesus said to them, how many loaves do you have? They said, 7, and a few small fish.
So this is literally the exact same thing.
This is the exact same thing.
Just different numbers.
And directing the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 7 baskets full of the broken pieces left over. Those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. And after sending away the crowds, he got into the boat and went into the region of Magadan. So this is the
This
exact
location
thing.
is an unknown city. There's no Gentile mission yet. But yes, this is the exact same thing. What is going on here, Lawrence?
Well, first of all, I think at the very end of the last one, or to the location, he went to the same location, didn't he? Before, I remember that name, or was it just a similar name beginning with an M? With the ship, because the name Magadan, was it, or was it a different town?
No, it was a different town.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I guess I just must be crazy. All right. Yeah. What is going on here? So
This seems to be just a variation of the exact same story, like pretty much down to the detail, except for the numbers and place name.
right.
So what I'm guessing happened here is that this is the original version that appeared in Matthew, and the other one was added in to have conformity with other gospels.
So, let's go over some of this here. So, well, yeah, essentially it's the same story as the one earlier. The second feeding that now follows is also intended to show Jesus' mercy. Yeah, this is just the exact same thing. But the question is, of course, why is it there twice? And unfortunately, well, okay, hold on. There's actually a little bit here. So summary creates difficulties. Characteristically, our story never has interested exegesis very much. It is often missing in old commentaries, especially when its interpreters were interested primarily in its spiritual content and not in the story itself, in which case everything necessary had already been said earlier in chapter 14. Yet, even when one wants to take the story as such seriously in this context, there are problems. Why does Matthew report two feedings? He's not interested in a feeding of the Jews and a feeding of the Gentiles. Obviously, there is no advance in the second feeding over the first. So here's this little section on when the exegetes of the ancient church do not simply ignore this pericope, they offer rather fantastic ideas. They begin, for example, with the different symbolism of the numbers. Here, Jesus no longer, as with 5 loaves, changes the Old Testament law, but the bread is the scripture of the New Testament, in which the sevenfold grace of the Holy Spirit is revealed and given. So that's quite the stretch.
Now, there's a little bit in Eerdmans, too. It says that details differ. Here, Jesus, not his disciples, raises the problem of feeding the crowds, whose need is very acute since they have been with Jesus for 3 days. Jesus and his disciples do not raise the option of sending the people to the neighboring villages because they might faint on the way. 7 loaves and a few fish satisfy the crowds and produce 7 baskets of leftovers. The numbers do not seem to be symbolic. The feeding story is probably repeated because it recalls the most important cultic practice of the early followers of Jesus, the communal meal of Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, this is sort of his big miracle in some ways.
It is a big thing
At
for
least
him.
in this version, Matthew's version.
Yeah.
So there's really only one answer. Matthew did not want to emphasize the differences. Instead of distinguishing between the two feedings, he wanted to use them as types. He wanted to say that Jesus again and again dealt with his people, Israel, as is reported in the many healings and in the 2 feeding stories. Yeah, that's true, because we had the the healing story that you just touch his robe and they were healed, but then we had it later again, although in the other case it was no, that one was pretty much the same. It was just different context, different amount of people, I think. Of course the dialogue was different, but essentially it's the same miracle.
Yeah.
All right, and that is the end of chapter 15.
Yeah, if you're all enjoying the stream, give us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, neighbors. And Lawrence, do you hear something?
I do hear something.
Something. Oh,
It sounds scary.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Jesus. Hey, buddy. Thanks for showing up. We heard a lot about you today. Why did you performed the same miracle twice, which is good. You had to feed quite a lot of people there. And that's, you know what? I'm proud of you, Jesus. I am very proud of you.
That's
and
9,000 people you fed for a day.
That's pretty good. Yeah. With such a small amount of bread
them
and
to feed themselves or anything, huh, Jesus?
you had not that much bread, not that much fish, but you know what? You did it. You somehow pulled it out, and you did it. I'm proud of you. So this next chapter, I do want to talk about it a little bit because of there's some good textual criticism here. So numerous manuscripts, but not the majority of the Egyptian witnesses, and also not all witnesses of the other families, have in addition after verse 2. I suppose we could get there afterwards. But the textual criticism here on verse 2 is kind of important. So I guess we can wait on that. Oh my God. Hello.
Hi.
Greeting.
How was the revelation?
Oh, it was incredible. You know what I saw?
What'd you see?
A lot of people eating, but not very much. The crumbs, really.
Oh, wow. That is...
And Jesus called them all dogs.
Oh, that's just rude.
Yeah. Jesus is pretty rude.
Yeah, I forgot to tell him that while he was here. I was kind of scared to. Maybe he'd call me a dog too.
No, because
he
you're
wouldn't.
Jewish.
Yeah, that's right. He wouldn't.
You're definitively not a dog.
That is, damn it. I was hoping to be a big old pupper.
What?
All right. So we have, once you get through verse 2 there, we do have some textual criticism. Although, I don't know if you want to hear about it, but there is some stuff here on Magadan, the name there. That was at the end of the last chapter.
I do want to hear about it.
Great. So the best manuscript support is for the place name Magadan, but the location of such a place is unknown, and even its existence is uncertain. The parallel passage in Mark 8:10 has, quote, the district of Dalmanutha, which is an equally unknown place and name. The well-known Semitic word for tower, transliterated into Greek as Magdalan, is read in many manuscripts in place of Magadan or Dalmanutha.
We should add a hidden command for our bot
We could add a whole
for Doge,
bunch of commands.
where it quotes the Jesus calling a woman a dog.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like exclamation point Doge. Yep. Anyways, this chapter I'm about to read.
Yeah.
It's got some red text in it,
Oh, okay.
which means Jesus is going to be talking. So,
Actually, tell me once you're done with verse. Wait, what? Tell me once you're done with verse 4.
okay,
'Cause this is interesting.
I'll tell you. Also, there's a weird alignment issue in the text. See here how the red text is not aligned with the black text in the same line?
Yeah, I suppose.
They were done by a different printer. Huh.
Weird.
Seriously.
Chapter 16. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven.
And this is something that they had already asked before.
Yeah. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, ye say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. Oh, ye hypocrites! Ye can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times? O wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. That was verse 4. This reminds me of, I guess, a bit of folk wisdom that they use in sailing circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
Red sky at night, sailor's delight. That thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Red sky in the morning, sailor take warning. You know, that's apparently that's discerning the face of the sky.
Although I do want to point out here that there's a whole section that is missing in the Hermenia translation.
What?
It's the entirety of verse 3.
What?
So let's talk about this. Okay. Numerous manuscripts, but not the majority of the Egyptian witnesses, and also not all witnesses of the other families, have an addition after verse 2. When it is evening, I mean, you read the whole verse, and it goes on. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. So, is this additional or original? For the following reasons, the answer will most likely be negative. So, A, text critically, the short text is attested by the best manuscripts, but geographically, it is heavily weighted towards Egypt. It is missing in the West. The list of witnesses for the long text is very impressive, especially quantitatively. On the basis of the textual witnesses, in my judgment, the short text is to be preferred. In terms of content, an argument against the long text is that the weather rule given here, in contrast to the one in Luke 12:15 through 56, belongs to the most widespread and obvious ones of antiquity. Thus, it may have been inserted anywhere. The contents of the short text should have been expanded, or could have been expanded, because the pericope was felt to be too short and colorless. Of only slight importance is the observation that purazo is a late verb for which there is evidence only in Byzantine Greek. An argument for the long text might be that the text was shortened under the influence of the parallels Matthew 12:38 through 40 and Mark 8:11 through 13. Just as conceivable, however, is a gloss, the word sign, semeon. If that last part of verse 2 and all of verse 3 is an addition, then it does not come from Q. That is improbable anyways, since only the structure and very few words agree. Above all, Luke mentions other weather rules. There are no traces in Matthew 16:2 through 3 of a Matthean redactional reworking. Matthew 2 through 3 presumably originated as a gloss without direct influence from Luke. So, and then a little bit more on I guess we actually just covered the textual thing, but this one puts it a little bit differently. But there is a big absence of those words. Of that entire verse, actually. Copyists may have added these verses from a source similar to Luke or from the passage in Luke with a few changes. On the other hand, it can be argued that these words are original and were omitted by copyists in climates such as Egypt, where red sky in the morning does not announce the coming of rain. Since the evidence is evenly divided, these verses are put in brackets to indicate uncertainty regarding the original text. So while the author of... while Luz is convinced that they're not original, I think this is from Omenson. Yeah, Omenson is like, they may be, they may not be, who knows? It's really an open question. Mm-hmm. But that whole verse.
Also, I want to point out that, this misalignment of the text is just this page, but it's like the whole page to the point where like there's slightly overlapping text between the red text and the black text.
That's annoying.
Like, they completely fucked up while they were aligning this page with the second printer to put on the red text. Why? If you can't do it consistently, why would you even do a red text edition?
That is Hey, but hey, it's a big book. It's a King James.
Okay.
Also, I've been trying to get Francesca Stavrakopoulos on the show for so long. It'd be really cool to have her on.
Yeah, reach out to. We know Digital Hammurabi, right?
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna like help. I think Aaron had her on too, but it's not like he's gonna help either. He could, I guess. I'll ask.
Why wouldn't they help?
I don't know.
They love us.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
they could help. It'd be cool.
yeah. We just need to go like chill one of their books or something.
Yeah, I suppose.
Read all their books.
They can be our sponsor for that episode.
Yeah, totally.
And they're instead of money, they'll give us this person.
In only the guest on a show sense, not in any other sense.
Yeah. Though if we did have a sponsor who wanted to give us like $10,000 to like shill a biblical commentary or something, I'd be down. I'll take your 10 grand.
So, I mean, for me, it actually depends on the commentary. If it's
Well,
good, I'll shill it. Sure.
No, it depends. Yeah. Anyways,
I won't endorse anything. That's just me.
Chris is endorsing, not endorsing anything.
That's right.
Wow. Amazing.
This episode is brought to you by Chris not wanting to endorse things.
If it weren't for that, there might not really be much of a show.
And yeah, Klaus, I agree. Her book on Manasseh is crazy expensive. I think it's still on the wish list.
Wow.
It is crazy expensive.
And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus said unto them, Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, It is because we have taken no bread. Which when Jesus perceived, he said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye among yourselves, because ye have brought no bread? Do ye not yet understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000, and how many baskets ye took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets ye took up? How is it that ye do not understand that I spake it not to you concerning bread, that ye should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees?
Thank you, Klaus. For
Thank
Klaus,
you,
thank
Klaus.
229.
To get Francesca on the show. You know what? That'd be pretty cool. Thank you, Klaus. Very much appreciated.
Yes, very much so. That comes to $22 and 29 US cents.
Apparently.
We could get like a quarter and 4 pennies and walk up to Francesca and throw them at her.
Let's not.
Yeah, let's not do that.
No. But yeah, so in this section, yeah, how do you not understand that I was not talking to you about bread? What was that noise?
It came from my computer.
That
That was the...
Oh, that was the notification.
I guess my desktop volume's still up.
Oh.
Okay, that was the notification. All right.
Turn that shit off.
Okay, that was really weird. Okay, so I don't know. I don't
know how it came through the desktop audio even. It doesn't make sense because it was on OBS.
Oh, you guys heard nothing. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys heard nothing because we heard like... Yeah, it did sound like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't coming through the audio board, which is good. Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
That would have been
Yeah,
fucking
the audio
weird.
board cuts that part out, but like,
was
I was
pretty
freaking
weird.
out because I heard it on the TV here, and I'm like, huh? This is supposed to never make any noise. Anyways.
Came
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
But I like the translation. How do you not understand that I was not talking to you about bread, but beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees?
Yeah. Then understood they that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Got it.
When Jesus came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, But whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God.
So there is a ton of commentary on this, but it's mostly like a redactional and source criticism here. So I won't get too much into that because honestly, there's like multiple pages on that. So I'm not even going to hit on it in the show. But so yeah, he came into the area of Caesarea Philippi in the far north of Israel near the source of the Jordan. So that's where that is.
This is a Gentile city about 25 miles north of the Sea of Galilee.
Great. All right. And they're calling him the Messiah.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Old Testament equivalent of Christ, Messiah, is used of anyone who is anointed with the holy oil, such as priests and kings of Israel. The word carries the idea of being chosen by God, consecrated to his service, and endued with his power to accomplish the assigned task. Toward the end of the Old Testament period, the word assumed a special meaning. It denoted the ideal king, anointed and empowered by God to rescue his people from their enemies and establish his righteous kingdom.
Yes.
The ideas that clustered around the title Messiah tended to be political and national in nature. Probably for that reason, Jesus seldom used the term. When he did accept it as applied to himself, he did so with reservations.
So, so there's something interesting here about not just the titles that are used. You have, Christ or Messiah, and living God. That's another one. Then there's the full double name, Simon Peter. It is in this form unique. Only in 4:18 and 10:2 is Peter used as surname immediately after Simon. The result is a strange phenomenon. The evangelist wants to direct his readers' attention to Peter and his confession, although as their spokesman, Peter answers a question directed to all the disciples and does not state a confession that differs from the one that all of them had already made.
So Jesus is going around all these Gentile areas, as in right here, and Simon's like, "You were the chosen one!
Essentially, yeah.
You were supposed to destroy the nations, not join them!"
And then all the other disciples are like, "Yeah, come on, Peter, we get it. We know."
Mm-hmm. And Jesus answered and said unto him, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." So this is what my previous commentary about Peter was commenting on. This holds special significance for the Catholics, right?
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
they interpret him as the first pope based off of this verse.
Yeah.
However, it really seems like this is just Jesus responding to Peter's statement. Not that Peter himself is of any special import.
Yeah, so of what does Peter's power of the keys consist? Verse 19b and c must answer this question. One expects a saying about opening and closing, such as Isaiah 22:22 or Revelation 3:7. Instead, the talk is of binding and loosing. What does this mean? So recollection of binding and loosing spells had led some to thinking of binding demons and more seldom of loosing demon-possessed people. More likely is the usual interpretation that proceeds from the rabbinic pair. So I don't know what that means, but it's in Hebrew here. The primary meaning is forbidding and permitting, with a halakhic decision of the rabbis. That is the interpretation of the law. Less frequently, but documented in contemporary sources, a judge's activity is meant. Then, to bind and to loose correspond to, put someone in fetters or to acquit. Furthermore, It is the rabbinic conviction that God or the heavenly court recognizes the halakhic decisions and the judgments of rabbinical courts. Thus, not only the concepts binding and loosing, but the entire saying is rooted in Jewish thought. Our text is presumably thinking of teaching, while in 1818 the thought is of judging, without the two meanings being mutually exclusive.
All right. So in the Greek, Peter is Petros, detached stone, and rock is Petra for bedrock. Several interpretations have been given to these words. The bedrock on which the church is built is 1, Christ, 2, Peter's confession of faith in Jesus as the Messiah, 3, Christ's teachings, one of the great emphases of Matthew's gospel, 4, Peter himself understood in terms of his role in the day of Pentecost, the Cornelius incident, and his leadership among the apostles. Ephesians 2:20 indicates that the church is built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets. In the Gospels, the word church is used only by Matthew, here and twice in 1817. In the Septuagint, it is used for the congregation of Israel. In Greek circles of Jesus' day, it indicated the assembly of free voting citizens of the city. For the gates of hell or the gates of Hades, this may refer to the powers of death, i.e., forces opposed to Christ and his kingdom. For the keys, perhaps Peter used these keys on the day of Pentecost when he announced that the door of the kingdom was unlocked to Jews and proselytes, and later when he acknowledged that it was also open to Gentiles.
So I just want to point out here, so it looks like these things would, specifically with the gates of hell, where it says it for you, right? Gates of hell.
Yeah.
So the translation here is just, of course, the gates of the land of the dead. So
it's also translated as gates of Hades.
Yeah, gates of Hades. So we begin with a few linguistic observations. While katiskuo usually is translated to have the upper hand or to win victory in a way that suggests the image of a struggle, katiskuo normally has the weaker meaning of to be superior, stronger than. In addition to the literal meaning, gates may also mean the the area they surround, like a city, but not the powers that rule it. Hades is, of course, the dwelling place of the dead that corresponds to the Hebrew Sheol. To be distinguished from Hades is the place of punishment for evil persons, hell, or, of course, coming from Gehenna. And, of course, gates of Hades are the land of Sheol is incredibly common throughout the Old Testament. So I like the fact that it's kind of separated here between, you have a tradition of Sheol turning into, it still kind of remains the same, right? Just the land of the dead. And maybe it gains kind of a spiritual context where people exist there as being alive in some way. I don't know, as a kind of afterlife, maybe. But where Sheol could have just meant literally like a grave. And then you have hell coming from Gehenna, which is the more violent, if the Valley of Ben Hinnom, and that's where people would burn things, including, at least according to the Bible, people as well.
Yeah.
So when they would pass through the fire and stuff like that, that would be in Gehenna. So it would make sense that that would become hell in the way we think about it now.
All right, let's continue. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Jesus the Christ. From that time forth began Jesus to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan! Thou art an offense to me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. This reminds me of the testament of Job, with Satan being behind him.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
So let's continue on here. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Verily, I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom."
So I was wondering if it would, if this verse here, this is what this is. I was specifically wondering about 1626. Yeah, 1626, where it says just had soul, right?
Yeah.
All right. So my translation has life. Those are different words. So I'm checking the Greek right now. But is that the end of the chapter? Do you have
That
more?
is indeed the end of the chapter. Hey, if you guys are enjoying the stream, be sure to share this with your friends, family, neighbors, those who have souls and those who have given it up for all of the things in the world.
Yeah, give me those things.
Yeah, it looks like they're using soul here. Just to say, they're using soul.
Yeah. So his statement in the final verse of this chapter essentially means to communicate that the Messianic era is coming into being right now, at the time of the story. Not now, right now.
Right.
But like people contemporary to him who are alive at that time, they're going to see the day of Yahweh.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's hop into chapter 17.
Yes.
That's it's gonna be me.
You.
Soldier Boy, tell him.
Yeah.
God, I haven't heard that song forever.
Roosevelt that.
Roosevelt?
Yeah, they have that in the song.
Did
They
they?
say Superman that and Roosevelt that.
Was Roosevelt in there?
Yeah, that's one of the lyrics.
Is it?
Prove me wrong.
I don't remember.
I'm not going to prove.
Could be Roosevelt, but I say Roosevelt.
I don't remember.
Good.
Roosevelt. Okay, fine. All
You
right.
have to listen to a crappy song. It's not worth
Just look
it.
up the lyrics.
Fair.
And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold,
Behold.
there appeared to them Moses and Elijah, talking with him. So this is...
Yeah, lots of stuff here. So first of all, Peter, James, and John, like Moses, Jesus takes 3 named disciples for a revelatory experience. See Exodus 24:1. Like Moses and Elijah, he goes up onto this mountain. The transfiguration, Greek metamorpho, change in form or appearance. His face shining is an allusion to Moses.
right when he saw God.
Yep. And Daniel 10:6, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches. Moses and Elijah perhaps suggest that Jesus is the fulfillment of the law and the prophets. Rabbinic texts also link Moses and Elijah. And moreover, the transfiguration is 1, a revelation of the glory of the Son of God, glory hidden now, but to be fully revealed when he returns. 2, a confirmation of the difficult teaching given to the disciples at Caesarea Philippi. And 3, a beneficial experience for the disciples who were discouraged after having been reminded so recently of Jesus' impending suffering and death.
So lots of big stuff happening here. He's just shining like the sun, essentially.
Yeah. Now Moses appears here as the representative of the old covenant and the promise of salvation, which was soon to be fulfilled in the death of Jesus. Elijah appears as the appointed restorer of all things. Luke 9:31 says that they talked about Christ's death.
So here's something interesting. It is probable that Moses and Elijah here do not represent the law and the prophets, as older and more recent exegesis assumed. The end of verse 5, equivalent to Deuteronomy 18:15, is more reminiscent of the prophet Moses than of the prophet Moses than of the lawgiver. And why should Elijah be the typical prophet? As was the case already in the tradition, they are simply representatives of the heavenly world. So, of course, yeah, Elijah went up, right? So that's one thing. Now, Moses, in the Bible, Moses did die and he was buried. Although I think we've already read that in other traditions that he was in heaven already, that he also ascended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard that.
So that is an interesting thing to note, I guess.
Also, this transformation slightly reminds me of the Metatron transformation.
It does, yeah. Okay, so if you guys aren't following Friday
Check out
Apocryphal Podcast,
Last Friday's episode, dang, is good.
yeah, Metatron or Enoch, he turns. So first he turns into this huge being with these giant wings, and he's literally as big as the earth.
With hundreds of thousands of eyes.
Yep. And then all of those pieces of him separately transform into fire.
Like different forms
One
of
by one. So his wings
primal fire,
and then his
cool stuff.
yeah, and then his eyes turn to flames and
Motes of fire. Yeah, it's all fire, but
Yeah.
different kinds of fire.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And Jesus is like that here too, where his face shines and he gets this
His clothes
dazzling
become white.
clothing. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, he sees Moses and Elijah, and Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you and one for Moses and one for Elijah." He was still speaking when behold,
Behold.
a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." That's what you're getting. When the disciples heard this, they fell on their faces and were terrified. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Rise and have no fear."
So
And when
these
they
are-
lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only.
So when they hear this, this is my son whom I love, with him I am well pleased. These are the same words that occur at Jesus' baptism in 3:17.
Yep.
And obviously this is supposed to be the voice of Yahweh coming down from on high.
Which is, it's very rare because
Yeah.
usually he would talk to like one person, but now he's talking to like a group.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And as they were coming down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, "Tell no one the vision until the Son of Man is raised from the dead." And the disciples asked him, "Then why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come?" He answered,
This is
Oh, yeah, go
the
ahead.
traditional eschatology of the teachers of the law based on Malachi 4:5-6. It holds that Elijah must appear before the coming of the Messiah. The disciples reasoned that if Jesus really was the Messiah, as the transfiguration proved him to be, why had not Elijah appeared? However, as we're going to see, and as was noted in previous chapters, someone wrote in "no divorce" on chapter 19, but as we're going to see, the idea that John the Baptist was Elijah is going to be made very explicit here.
Yeah, because we had that earlier. We did talk about it a lot where John the Baptist was seen to be like, I guess, the second coming of Elijah.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
they beheaded him.
Right. You can't do that to Elijah. He was very popular. So anyways, then why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come? He answered, Elijah does come, and he will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man will certainly suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them of John the Baptist.
Yes. So this references John the Baptist. Rabbinic literature varies regarding Elijah's precise messianic role and duties. In one piece in the Talmud, Elijah comes to make peace with the world. In another, Elijah refers to his earthly return. In another, it states that Elijah will not return on certain festival eves. So there's a lot of different ideas about Elijah and his return, some of which may or may not be in conflict with the idea of John the Baptist being Elijah. But
yeah, so let's see here. So in his answer in verse 11, Jesus takes up the Jewish expectation and formulates it biblically with the words of Malachi 3:23, as their apokatese appears in the future tense. Did Matthew think that Elijah would appear again before the parousia of Jesus? That is improbable, since the order of the two returns of Elijah in verses 11 through 12 would then be reversed. The future tense is probably only adaptation to the biblical wording and understood from the temporal standpoint of the prophet Malachi. In verse 12a and b, Jesus contrasts the prediction of the scripture with the fulfillment that is emphatically formulated as his own word. Malachi's prediction has already been fulfilled with the coming of John the Baptist. The disciples already know that the Baptist is the returned Elijah. In verse 13, Matthew recalls this once more and thus makes clear how it is through the instruction of Jesus that the disciples come to understanding.
though honestly, we don't need John the Baptist to be Elijah because we've already gotten the return of Elijah in this chapter.
Right?
He just appeared. They
He was
saw
just
I
Elijah.
was
there, yeah.
confused because he just showed up, and then they were like, "Well, what about Elijah? We just saw Elijah."
He was right there, yeah.
Yeah. Why would they even question?
Maybe the return had to be something different, right? Not just like
No, that's a return.
not right. I know it's a return, but maybe they were expecting a different kind of return.
I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't supposed to be like this quick vision, where they just like help some other dude like transfigure or something, or just be there as an audience for it.
I guess.
Either way, continue on here. Oh, we're back to miracle stuff. And when they came to the crowd, now they're going directly back to the crowd. The transfiguration
Is done.
yeah. And they made it clear that Elijah, or that John the Baptist was Elijah, and that's that.
Yeah, this next section is just another exorcism.
Gotcha.
And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him and kneeling before him said, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic, and he suffers terribly. For often he falls into the fire and often into the water." Man, that sucks.
Yeah, that's pretty awful.
All right. That is pretty bad. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. Oh, wait, why? Because he gave the disciples the power to do
He
it.
gave them the power. What's going on here?
Maybe it's their faith, right? Because faith, as we saw, was like the thing that like gave the disciples power.
Yeah.
Like what Peter couldn't stand in the water without it. There was another one that we talked about earlier too.
It could also be that they were trying to heal the epilepsy, but it's not epilepsy. It's a demonic possession.
Gotcha. You know what? That's probably it.
Right?
That's probably it. Let's find out, though. And Jesus answered, "Oh, faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me." You know, Jesus is kind of getting mad about helping people.
Yeah.
Like, how long do I have to stay here and hold your hand through all this? Yeah, bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast it out?" No, they knew it was a demon because they were trying to cast it out. And he said to them, "Because of your little faith, for truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you."
We had the reference to this earlier. Now we're returning to it. The idea is that their faith is so little that it's not even comparable to a mustard seed.
Right.
Because if it was,
Move a
then
mountain.
yeah, they would be able to do this easily.
Apparently, yeah.
So all of you out there who haven't been able to raise the dead and heal the sick and everything, it's just because your faith is minuscule. Just
You got no
you
faith.
barely had any faith to begin with. Yeah. It's not because it doesn't work. It's just on you, right?
Yeah, so the answer given by Matthew is more basic than the Markan answer. It consists of an answer from the evangelist himself and the traditional Jesus saying about mustard seed faith. His own answer is failure in healing is an expression of little faith. Little faith is, as in 630, faith that has become discouraged and lacks trust in God's miraculous help. Thus, Matthew does not think that healings and exorcisms are special experiences that sometimes happen and sometimes do not. He is much more enthusiastic and regards healing and exorcism as experiences that are an essential part of faith. Where they are absent, faith has not lived up to its potential. Little faith must be overcome by actually laying claim to the power of Jesus. To his own answer, Matthew adds the logion about the faith that can move mountains, a saying so important for him that he transmitted it twice, also in 21:21. It contrasts little faith with faith like a mustard seed, obviously a faith that is also little. At first glance, the distinction is confusing. I guess it kind of makes sense. But if you have like any faith at all, you should be able to do anything, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm really curious as to how this has been interpreted over the years, though.
Faith healers.
Well, I mean, yeah, faith healers, obviously, but we already know that they're all bullshit. So, like, are those can't be the only people with faith, right?
Mm.
Like, let's put this into context. If this is true, then like why isn't every actual pious Christian a faith healer? Like that.
Well,
that's
because
the thing.
their faith isn't big enough.
Right, it's not big enough for some reason. So then you would think, why are people like oh my God, what was the dude's name? Peter Popoff, even though he was proven to be a fraud very, very easily. But like, why would he be like a person to get it and not others?
Just more faith.
Yeah, just more faith arbitrarily somehow. All right, let's continue though. I think.
Look at Chris trying to spell familiar.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell
he's trying to
familiar.
spell words. Listen, it's all right. It's all right.
Certain words, at least.
All right. So, yeah, nothing will be impossible for you if you have at least some faith. All right. Let's
Keep going.
continue on here. As they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the third day." And they were greatly distressed. Interesting that he's, it's Jesus. So
Yeah.
you'd think he's talking he is talking in the third person here. So interesting that they're doing that. And interesting that that's the only thing we get on it as well. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically just him talking about his future death.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then it goes on to the next section.
Right.
When they came to Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma tax went up to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the tax?" He said, "Yes." And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tax? From their sons or from others?" And when he said, "From others," Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free. However, not to give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook and take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for me and for yourself."
So this translation doesn't say shekel; it says 4 drachma coin.
Oh, okay.
So the commentaries here explain this tax. The annual temple tax required of every male 20 years of age and older. Exodus 30:13, 2 Chronicles 24:9, Nehemiah 10:32. It was worth half a shekel, approximately 2 days' wages, and was used for the upkeep of the temple.
And we all know how much upkeep the temple needed.
Yeah, this other one, the Jewish Annotated New Testament, says that some Jewish sources state that all males over the age of 20 pay the tax. Others indicate it was not compulsory. Some fragments from Qumran suggest that the tax only had to be paid once during a lifetime.
It's interesting here that he just says, go and find like a fish and go grab, some money out of its mouth. But then we don't actually hear the story of him finding a fish with money in its mouth, which is weird to me. Like that's just strange there. So let's talk about this a little bit here.
So for not giving offense to them, a lesson for Matthew's day. When Rome replaced the temple tax with the fiscus Ludaicus, which required Jews to support the temple of Jupiter Capitolina in Rome.
All right. I'm currently trying to find...
And this coin, according to the Jewish Annotated New Testament, is neither a 4 drachma coin, nor is it a shekel. It says that this is a Tyrian stater, worth 4 drachmas, enough to pay for 2 people.
So, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there is... Well, actually, hold up here. Okay, so what is Matthew's interest in our story? The temple tax no longer existed in his time. The good relationship with the synagogue was already destroyed. Our text is the document of a former solidarity that had been overtaken by history. If Matthew himself regarded the annual double drachma tax as a commandment of the Torah, our text bears witness to Jesus' actual fulfillment of the law on his own authority. If Matthew still knew that the double drachma tax is not a commandment of the Torah but belongs to the tradition of the fathers, then he showed how even such traditions could be accepted occasionally for the sake of love. And of course, he also reveals joy that Jesus looks into and rules not only hearts but also nature. However, I no longer see a clear Sitzumleben, setting in life, so historical context, for this text in the time after 70. Matthew has transmitted it out of faithfulness to the tradition. Now, unfortunately, we don't get more on that. I would like to hear why it just kind of stops.
The
That's
story of the taxes. So, since the temple is God's house and God's subjects pay for its upkeep through taxes, Jesus, who is God's son and a family member, is not a member of the populace liable for taxes, but a recipient of the taxes. The attitude towards taxes here, that they should be paid for the sake of social order, but that they are not pertinent to God's kingdom, fits the common New Testament attitude towards civil authorities. The story probably provided a rationale for some of the early followers of Jesus to remain connected to the temple and in good standing with Jewish communal authorities by paying the tax, and may have provided others with a reason, Jesus' special status before God, to stop paying the tax.
So thus the present pericope climaxes in verse 27, the announcement of the miracle of the coin or jewelry and the fish that is familiar from various popular tales. In Herodotus, Strabo, a bunch of them apparently. Why is it taken up here? Certainly the memory of the poverty of Jesus and of the circle of disciples plays a role, and certainly the fisherman Peter provides an important occasion for a fish story. Important also was the confidence that God or the Lord provides for the church's material needs, even if it is in a quite unexpected way. Much as in the late Lucan version of the legend of Peter's call in Luke 5:1-11, in our legend, Jesus' knowledge and authority become an essential scope. Not only is Jesus the Lord, also of the fish, even the amount of money needed is exact.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, right? I get that, here's another miracle thing where just go, don't pay your own money. Just go and find some money in the mouth of a fish somewhere. So I get that. But also, why doesn't it tell you that he did that?
Right.
Because every other story where you have,
the implication is that he does it.
Right. It's implied. But all the other ones are not implied. They're very direct.
It could be that we're just missing a segment.
That could also be true. But
even a few verses.
That is true. We could also just be missing a version here. So I'm gonna check in here. I don't see it. I don't know if there's any textual commentary on it. Maybe there is. So if I knew how to flip a page properly, that'd be great.
I believe in you.
Thank you.
One page, huh, Lawrence?
No, nothing.
Yay!
Wow. Well, that's the reading for the day.
Yeah, it is.
So, if you enjoyed the stream today, be sure to check us out on Patreon, where you can give us money, and
you could get T-shirts. You can get T-shirts in our T-shirt giveaways, which we do every month, which we will be doing next week, right?
Yeah, but if you don't want to enter a giveaway, you could always just buy the T-shirt. Look at this T-shirt that's being put up on the thing right now. Look at it. Well, behold a T-shirt
right over there.
It's our mascot, Buzzy B. He's his name is Buzzy,
and he's a bee.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see what else. We got. We have an Amazon wish list.
Yeah, tons of books on there. You can add books to the table, books to our bookshelves,
and books for future videos.
Look at this.
What is it destroyed?
The gloss is coming off of the cover.
Don't you just hate it when that happens?
Yeah, I hate it when that happens.
All right, so let's see. We got that. We also have. I think Francesca's book is on there. It should be.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have. We have Facebook and Twitter. Free to follow us on those platforms.
Free, totally free. You can email us at MilwaukeeAtheists@gmail.com.
Lawrence diss tracks.
Yeah, if you want to diss Lawrence, then do so. In a track.
Yeah, please do. It'd be a good time.
You don't even have to make your own beats. You can just download some free beats somewhere and use that.
Yeah.
You don't even need beats. Just diss him in a musically oriented way.
No, you do need to have beats, but the only beats you need to have are Beats by Dre.
Oh, okay.
We're not sponsored.
No, we're not.
By Dr. Dre.
It's
not a real doctor, by the way.
No, you don't know that.
Dre's not even his real name.
You don't know that.
Okay, fine.
Look, on Friday, we're talking about 30 Knock more.
Yeah.
So be there or be square.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, when you're a square, it means that you're rigid and inflexible and kind of a douche.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
You either be there or
Be rigid,
Be rigid and flexible and kind of a douche.
And until then.
So we will
see you on Friday and then Sunday and then Friday.
Don't
and
be
then
a square.
Sunday
They're
and
rigid
then
and flexible
Friday.
and